All right, we're jumping into a book with a title that just makes you stop and think. Best Loser Wins by the high-stakes trader Tom Hougaard. And its whole premise is that your normal, everyday way of thinking is the very thing that sets you up to fail in the trading world.
Let's just start with a number. A pretty brutal one, actually. The vast majority of people who get into retail trading, we're talking around 90%, consistently lose money. I mean, can you imagine any other profession with a failure rate that high? It's astronomical.
So that's the big question, isn't it? Why? Is it because all these people just aren't smart? Not at all. The book's entire argument is that they fail because they use the same logical, rational brain in the market that helps them succeed in, regular life. And it turns out, in trading, that's a fatal mistake. Okay, so let's get into Section 1, Normal Thinking is a Loser. This is where the book lays out how the very instincts that help you navigate your day-to-day will drive you straight off a cliff in the markets. And this really gets to the heart of the problem, which Hougaard calls supermarket thinking. Think about it. You're in the grocery store. You see your favorite brand of chicken is 50% off. Your brain just lights up, right? Bargain, buy it now. We are rewarded for buying things when their price drops. But in the market, acting on that exact same impulse when a stock falls and thinking, oh, it's cheap now, that's just a recipe for disaster.
Hougaard actually tells this incredible story about it. When he was a young analyst, the stock for a company called Marconi had just cratered, and everyone, of course, was asking him if it was cheap. His answer? Marconi is garbage. Concepts like cheap and expensive may work in the world of Saturday grocery shopping, but not in the financial markets. Well, he got fired for being so blunt, but he was 100% right. That stock went all the way to zero.
So this flawed supermarket thinking leads traders down a very specific and very wrong path. Which brings us to Section 2. The myth of the secret. It's this idea that there's some magic bullet that they're just missing.
And what do? Well, they start chasing. They spend thousands on weekend courses, they plaster their charts with all these super complex indicators, they follow so-called gurus on social media. They're all searching for some kind of external key because they're convinced that if they just get more information or more tools, that'll solve their problems.
But here's the logical gut punch. The author makes a point that's just, you can't argue with it. If all these technical analysis tools and expensive courses were really the answer, the industry wouldn't have a 90% failure rate, right? I mean, dentists don't fail 90% of the time. There's clearly something else going on here. And this is where things get really mind-bending. A major broker analyzed 43 million trades from its clients. And what did they find? The traders were actually right more often than they were wrong. A whopping 62% of their trades were profitable. They were picking winners almost 2/3 of the time.
Now that creates a huge paradox, doesn't it? I mean, hold on a second. If they were right most of the time, how on earth did they end up in that 90% of losers? It seems completely impossible.
And here is the brutal answer. When they were wrong, their losses were so catastrophic that they didn't just wipe out all those smaller, frequent wins, they wiped them out and then some. This proves it. Being right isn't the key. The problem isn't the analysis, it's the psychology.
And that's the real battle. It's not you against the market. It's you against your own evolutionary wiring. Which brings us to Section 3, fighting your own brain.
Think about it. Your brain's primary job, above almost everything else, is to protect you from pain. And closing a trade for a loss, that's painful. It forces you to admit you were wrong. And your brain will do pretty much anything to avoid feeling that.
And look at how this plays out in real life. Why do we let a losing trade run? Well, we tell ourselves we're hoping it'll come back. But the real reason, deep down, we're just trying to avoid the pain of admitting we're wrong and taking the loss. And what about taking profits too early? We say, hey, you can't go broke taking a profit. The real reason? We're avoiding the potential future pain of watching that profit vanish. You see, every single one of these self-destructive actions comes from the same place. It all boils down to this one simple, devastating truth. Our natural instinct to avoid pain hardwires us to do the exact opposite of what we're supposed to do. We cling to our losing trades with hope, and we abandon our winning trades out of fear. All right, so if normal thinking is a total failure, what does winning actually look like? Well, this leads us to the solution in Section 4, how the best loser wins. It means you have to become the very best at losing. Here it is, side by side, the two paths. The 90%, they get fearful when they're winning and hopeful when they're losing. And because of that, they run their losses and cut their profits. The winning traders,
They do the complete opposite. They're hopeful when they're winning and absolutely fearful when they're losing. So they cut their losses without mercy and they let their profits run.
So how do you actually get there? Hugard says you have to literally flip the switch on your brain. So instead of being hopeful about that losing position, you need to be terrified it's going to get worse. Instead of being fearful that your winning position is going to disappear, you need to be hopeful it's going to get even bigger. You have to start every single trade with the assumption that you are wrong. And most importantly, you have to learn to be an outstanding loser.
And this is the quote that just ties the entire thing together. Hugard's secret weapon isn't some fancy chart pattern, it's his relationship with being wrong. He wins because he is the absolute best at losing.
And what does it really mean to be an outstanding loser? It means that taking a loss doesn't derail you. You don't get all anxious about it. You don't get angry and try to get revenge on the market. You just accept it calmly as a cost of doing business, and you move on to the next trade with a totally clear head.
So I'll leave you with the central idea of this entire book. What if the goal isn't to be right all the time? What if winning this game is actually all about becoming world-class at handling those moments when you are completely wrong?